The most dangerous thing you will ever do, you already did. It wasn't fighting. It wasn't a predator in the dark. It wasn't starving through a winter. It was being born. For almost every other animal on Earth, birth is quick and quiet. A horse foal drops to the ground and stands within the hour. A mother ape squats, reaches down, and lifts her own baby to her chest, alone. But not us. For a human mother 40,000 years ago on a cold and open land, giving birth was the closest she would ever come to death. And the strange thing, the thing hidden inside our own bones, is that she almost certainly could not do it alone. Which raises a question that should not have an answer. If human birth is this deadly, how are any of us here? The danger is built into our skeleton. It comes from two things that should never have had to fight each other: walking and thinking. Millions of years ago, our ancestors stood up and started walking on two legs across open ground. To do that, the hips had to change. The pelvis narrowed and tightened into a shape built for striding and balance and covering miles. A narrow pelvis is good for walking. It is very, very bad for giving birth. Because at the same time, something else was happening. Our brains were growing, bigger and bigger and bigger, until the human head became enormous compared to almost any other animals. So picture the problem: an enormous head trying to pass through a pelvis that got narrower to help us walk. Scientists call this the obstetrical dilemma: a big head and a small door. For most of the animal kingdom, birth is a baby sliding through an opening with room to spare. For a human, it is one of the tightest fits in all of biology. The baby's skull is barely smaller than the space it has to pass through. Sometimes it isn't smaller at all. This is why human babies are born with soft, unfused skulls, plates of bone that can squeeze and overlap and change shape just enough to get through. Being born, for us, means being crushed just enough to survive. The tight fit is only half the danger. There is a second thing, and it is the strangest part of the whole story. For a mother ape, the baby comes out facing forward, facing her. She can see its face, reach down, guide it up, wipe its mouth, pull it to her chest. She delivers her own child, by herself, and usually does. For a human, the baby has to turn. The head is so big and the pelvis so oddly shaped that the baby cannot come straight through. It rotates, twisting partway down, and it emerges facing backward, away from the mother. Sit with what that means. The mother cannot easily reach down and guide her own baby out because it is facing the wrong way. If she pulls against the bend of its spine and neck. She often can't clear its airway. She can't lift it to her chest. For the first time in the history of life, a mother giving birth needed someone else. Someone to catch the baby. Someone to turn it, clear its mouth, place it against her skin. Someone to simply be there, in the most vulnerable moment a human body will ever face. This is why many researchers believe that helping at birth, what we'd now call midwifery, may be one of the oldest cooperative acts our species has. Older than farming, older than art, perhaps as old as being human at all. Now, hold this one a little loosely. We can't dig up a moment of care. Soft acts don't fossilize, and some researchers think early mothers managed alone more often than we assume. The debate is real. But the shape of the bones is not a debate. The twist is real. The tight fit is real. And the simplest reading of them is quietly staggering. From the very beginning, we were a species that had to be caught by someone else. None of this made birth safe. It only made it survivable, sometimes. For most of human history, giving birth was the single most likely way for a young woman to die. Not age, not violence, not hunger. This. If the baby was turned wrong, if it was too big, if the labor went on for days, there was nothing anyone could do. No surgery, no way to open a path the body had closed. Mother and child could be lost together, and often were. And even when the birth went well, the danger wasn't over. Human babies are born helpless, utterly, completely helpless, more than any other animal. A newborn deer runs. A newborn human cannot lift its own head, cannot cling to its mother the way an ape infant clings to fur. It has to be carried, every minute, for years. Many scientists think this helplessness is the other half of the same bargain. The head can't finish growing before birth without killing the mother. So much of a human's growing has to happen afterward, on the outside, in someone's arms. Exactly how much of that is down to the pelvis is still argued, but the helplessness itself is not in doubt. Which means a mother who survived birth was not free. She was now tied to a creature that could do nothing for itself, in a world that was trying to kill them both. She couldn't do that alone either. She needed the others, to share food while her hands were full, to carry when she was tired, to watch the baby so she could sleep. It's the same pattern we keep finding everywhere we look. The strong did not leave the weak behind. They couldn't. We are built from our very first breath to be unable to survive by ourselves. So, why does any of this work? Why are you here if human birth should be impossible? You're here because your mother survived the most dangerous thing a human body can do. And she survived it, almost certainly, because other people held her while she did. Someone caught you. Someone cleared your mouth so you could take your first breath. Someone placed you against her skin. And it probably wasn't only one person. Look closely at how humans raise their young and you find something rare. We don't do it alone, and we never really did. The mother, yes, but also the others, even the old. There may be a reason human women live for decades after their last child, when almost no other animal does. An older woman who has caught babies before, who knows how a labor goes, who has spare hands and hard-won patience, is not a burden by the fire. In a world where every birth is a gamble, she might be the difference between a child that lives and one that doesn't. We may have evolved to grow old on purpose, because a group with grandmothers simply raised more children who survived. The old took care of the young being born. The young, one day, would carry the old. A circle drawn in bone, hundreds of thousands of years deep. We're the animal that stood up to walk, and it narrowed the door. We're the animal that learned to think, and it grew the head too big for the door. By rights, we should not be able to be born at all. And yet here you are. From your very first second of life, before you had a name, before you opened your eyes, you needed other people. You have needed them ever since. You always will. We were never just the animal that survived on its own. We were always the animal that arrived in someone else's hands.